Well, before starting and talking about my experience with design thinking, I guess it's best to give a short introduction as to who Tapetes São Carlos is, since I guess most people outside Brazil will not know us. So Tapetes São Carlos, we are a family business founded by German immigrants 70 years ago. We are a national producer here in Brazil of rugs, carpets, and technical textiles, especially for the automotive industry. We are a crew of about 500 people, and we take pride in being a very conservative, traditional company in everything we do. So usually new stuff is not seen as the greatest idea, but on the other hand, we see it as a great strength that we are able to be a very reliable partner, and this way got us up to leadership in terms of quality and in part also in innovation here in Brazil in our industry. In 2014, it was October, I had the privilege of being able to go to Stanford to the D.school and take the class there called CFI, Customer Focused Innovation. It was an amazing week. Returning back, for me, it was very important to get started right away with design thinking. So the very first step I was able to do is I joined with some colleagues from sales, and we did some design thinking exercises in-house, and then we decided to go out and do the whole process in the field to see what happens. So we want to go through empathy, defining, ideation, prototyping, testing, and assessing our ideas and prototypes. And the first thing we started to do is we wanted to do empathy works with our customers and our sales representatives. The problem is we had no budget to travel all over Brazil to make interviews and observe our customers in the field. So what we did is we took an old van, here on the left, and we set up inside the van a teleconference. So it was our first, there was no Zoom at the time, so it was by phone. We all would sit inside the van on some days with incredible heat. So we had some days with over 100 Fahrenheit, that's close to 40. We would sit in the van to get the feeling of being on the road and talk to our customers and sales reps who were all over in Brazil in the field. Moving back and forth through the design thinking process, very fast, there was the idea to make a truly sustainable rug collection. So our engineers were on the way and developed a rug made out of recycled polyester bottles. And the rug itself had to be recycled as well. But we didn't want to stop there. For us, sustainability is not just caring about the environment, but also caring about the society as a whole. And so we were able to partner up through an NGO called Opção Brasil with native tribes here in Brazil. All the tribes were actually within the state of São Paulo, where we are based. Suddenly for us, the project had to change, because working with these tribes, it's no longer deadlines, milestones, all these things. We had to start respect the moon phase, respect the rights of the tribes to get the project going. On the other hand, this was very fulfilling for us, since our native designers came back with rug designs which really were surprising. For example, the rug which we see here in the biggest picture symbolizes the sacred fire of native nations here in Brazil. Anybody getting in touch with this design will go, in their belief, through a spiritual purification of the soul. So one of our sales colleagues called it, it's actually a native Brazilian feng shui. I don't know if this is a good description, but it describes it very well, since it shows that we were able to get truly Brazilian symbolism within a rug collection, and in parallel help these native tribes in Brazil who are lacking basically everything still today. So for example, we as employees, we put together to get clauses for these stripes. The company organized roof tiles, boat for them to go fishing. So we were able to organize a lot of things to help these tribes get along better. With the success starting as a first design thinking project, we started immediately some other projects, but then somebody decided to pull away the rug from beneath us. In this case, it was politics and economics. In 2015, Brazil suddenly was faced with a severe crisis, politically and economically. So starting 2014, but then in 2015 even more, unemployment started to skyrocket, the economy was going down. It was a really bad situation for the country. And the inevitable happened. Shortly into the crisis, as it was once clear that this will stay for a long time, the board came up to me with a clear and simple order. We have to cut costs. Clemens, your job is it? At the time I was in charge for the production. Clemens, go ahead, cut costs at any price. Basically not at any price. If it costs anything, it's no good, but we have to cut costs and cut costs now. To me, it sounded like the order of going into a chainsaw massacre. I had the impression that this was expected from me, but it didn't feel right. Something about just closing down business units, cutting costs, didn't feel right to me. It was very depressive at the time. At the time, I even considered with my wife of quitting the job here in Brazil and move back to Germany, where I'm originally from. It wasn't easy. So at this point, I would like to hand over to Catherine, because I guess we could move into a breakout session and see a small challenge. I would love to hear from all of you. What would your suggestion be for me to do? Is there a design thinking solution? Is there some other solution? It took me about 2 weeks of lots of discussions, and we were considering a lot of things. And basically what we decided to do as a first step is we said, okay, we're going to do design thinking and a lot of it. The idea was to move on and use the design thinking training within the company. So within about 3 weeks, out of the 500 employees, we trained about 150. We did a lot of different challenges, played around, and basically what we did, we observed our colleagues and used it as a form of doing empathy work, form of figuring out what is actually moving us internally, what is moving our staff, what is important to us right now. And there was one thing Professor Pfeffer said during the course. He always said that, remember, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And the other, probably even more important point was, it's easier quite often to ask for forgiveness than for permission. So basically, during this 2 weeks of lots of design thinking training going on, we decided that we just go for it without asking anybody for permission to do what we were about to do, because I knew if I would go up to the board and say, well, here's how we are going to cut our costs, I don't know. Because the idea we had, okay, we have to work along the way and figure out ways to cut costs and keep everybody on board. Because what we've seen, there was a lot of fear within the company as a whole. Many colleagues had lost hope, especially since a lot of partners not working here, working in other companies, already had lost their jobs, things like that. So our main focus in the first place was to take out fear. And we came up with our first prototype, which turned into the actual solution, a corporate-wide game. We called it Tapetes Solution, made out of tapetes, which is rug in Portuguese, and the English word solution. We decided to make it fun to do what we do not like to do. Because usually if our boss is coming, telling us, hey, it's time to cut cost, I don't care how, now, it's not a good thing to do. So basically the idea of fun was very important to us, and Catherine mentioned preparing for this event that actually research is backing this up, that research is showing that we are all humans are more likely to take risks in a playful environment than in a work environment. So without knowing, our prototype actually showed that research is right. So the game was to be fun, safe, and it was a way to get the whole company working on as many ideas as possible within no time. The game itself was based on 3 basic rules. Rule 2 and 3 not being that important, the most important rule was no job cuts under any circumstances. This was the tricky part, because at the point we started it, I had no green light from the board to actually make this promise. I still made it. Because after all, the biggest risk I actually was running is either to lose my own job, but I guess the bigger chance would have been for me to ask for forgiveness to the board and explain them what to do. But knowing it would not have been possible to get this permission, we decided to make it not a top-down movement, but a bottom-up movement within the company. The second rule, anything will do. Any idea either to increase sales or to reduce cost is acceptable if it's to be implemented within 3 months. It had to be fast. Many ideas that came up are still in our pipeline today because they were just impossible to implement within 3 months. We kept all these ideas and we focused on working hard to implement as fast as possible cost reductions. The idea of these rules basically was to get an emotional involvement of everybody, and especially to show everybody that there's something in it for each and one of us. Quite often we found out in the empathy work that people say, hey, well, okay, I'm working hard here all day, all night, on the weekends to do as much as possible for the company. And what is the company doing for me? What is the organization returning to me? And so what we were able to say, hey, there's something in it for you. We are offering to you the possibility to work in a safe and fun environment. There were 2 colleagues, Felipe and Carolina. At the time, they were interns at the company, so they didn't really have anything to lose. And I was very happy, and I'm very grateful that they actually believed in me and agreed to work as the mediators or on the game. So their main focus was to teach design thinking, to have the teams going through design thinking. Sometimes it needed some special help from their side to move things around the existing rules within the company. But for example, Carolina convinced one of the teams that they should have to do an exercise to change perspective. And so the team went to a grocery store, a local grocery store, and they had to stay half an hour in the grocery store and return with as many things they have never seen before in a grocery store. To this team, it was a real eye-opener, because within half an hour, I myself didn't believe the things they saw in a grocery store. They saw a drug dealer selling drugs. They found mice. They found a snake and a couple of other things. it was so amazing to the team that they actually, the problems they were working on, they were able to shift their perspective. They were able to do really a design thinking approach to be like a child and see everything totally new way. So Felipe and Carolina did a lot of great things in getting people out of their comfort zone and getting people to see things they have never seen before. A fun element they worked a lot were challenges. So throughout the game, the teams had to develop new ways of selling or of cutting costs. And in parallel, we always gave them new challenges to make them rethink the possibilities. For example, the first challenge was a paperclip challenge. Every team got 10 paper clips, and they had to create as much value as possible within 2 days, starting with 10 paper clips. We had various answers. For example, one team returned the paper clips and said, Clemens, you're nuts. 10 paper clips are worth nothing. We are able to do much better solution. And here it is. Another team said, okay, now we will put the 10 paper clips together to a chain. And this chain will remind us that we have to break up corporate silos within the company and work together as a whole. Was amazing to see. One thing the game did at first, it made corporate silos even stronger. So it divided the company because each team started to hassle and to win. Everybody wanted to win. No, it's about winning. It's about winning. So we had to change the rules all the time along the game. And one of the things we did to make people understand, it's not about winning. Either we all win or we all lose. So we played a puzzle game. What we did is we bought 5 puzzles, simple puzzles with Disney, cars, motifs, 200 pieces per puzzle. And we invited 5 teams, and the teams had 20 minutes to get the puzzle solved.
Isso é muito bom, essas trocas, né? Eu acho legal demais isso. Meus filhos vão adorar e eu também.
What actually happened, we didn't give them a single puzzle. We mixed the 5 puzzles. So people first had to find out, wait a second, this is not just one puzzle, it's several. How are we going to solve this? And some of the teams which played this game with us realized that if they all put the pieces together, they can solve the puzzle within no time. Others started competitive and stayed competitive too much, so they were not able to solve it. But these fun challenges made people wake up and actually moving more and more together. So this was this part of the game. As a whole, we found out a lot of things that worked for us, but for example, we can find support from top down, but it's not the only way of support. We are a very traditional company, as I mentioned at the beginning. So we like hierarchy. We like clear orders, things like that. And so we had to make ourselves understand that it's not about top down, it's also about bottom up. So we actually can find support and move the company in a direction from the bottom, and not only from the top. It's not only we have to wait for the shareholders or the board or whoever telling us what to do, is we can move things in the right direction on our own. It was a little bit what Professor Satt and Professor Rao in their lectures called Buddhism and Catholicism. So in the Catholic Church, it's a very strict hierarchy. If the Pope is giving an order, everybody should follow. In Buddhism, it's different. There's no central command. It's more that everybody has its own possibility to find its own way. So we were a little too Catholic, if I may say so, and not enough Buddhist. And we found ways to get these things more equilibrated. For example, we soon started to take directors out of the design thinking teams. The teams had to be diverse as possible to get good results. The diverser the team, the better. For example, we had an amazing team. It was a machine operator, cleaning lady, and a security guard. And they came up with an idea to start a direct sale business model in Brazil. Brazil worldwide is the third largest direct sales market. It's the US, China, and then it's Brazil. So direct sales, the most famous is Tupperware worldwide, probably. So it's people receiving at their homes goods and selling them on. The idea was rejected right away because everybody said, well, a small Tupperware or anything you can put in your pocket, go over to your neighbor and sell it to your neighbor. But a carpet or a rug, how will you sell this? It's not possible. It was banned right away. The team didn't give up. What they did actually is they asked for a catalog and a small sample. And then they went to public transport. They hopped on the bus here in town, drove around 2 hours in town and returned having sold 25 rugs. So within 2-3 hours, they had proof of concept that their idea would work. And that's, for example, one of the solutions we're still working on today on implementing. For us, we were a lot of work within strict processes. The classic plan, do, check is a process we usually worked on. We had many people working on. With Tapetes solution, we turned this upside down. Usually we had no exact idea of where we were going. We were just working our way forward in a constant cycle of experimentation, prototyping, testing, and if we saw it actually works, it's possible to do, it's possible to implement, we would implement it right away. Did it work for us? Yes, it did. In 2016, 17, I'll come back later, 18, 19, and 20, we were able every single year to grow our sales and to cut our costs. 2017 was a year full of alignments. There were several problems. We had too many ideas in too short a time. We couldn't handle it anymore. We were basically smashed by a tsunami of projects. So that's what put us a little bit off track in 2017. And 2017 was also a year where it needed a lot of internal discussions to get the things going again. To me, it was very gratifying to see we were really able not to send anybody away in order to cut costs. We had to send people away for behavior, but nobody lost his job simply because of cost cutting. Because we really got to the point where we strongly believed the worst thing we could do is go up to a colleague and tell him, thank you for your good work, but you're expendable. Go. This is basically, we believe that nobody should deserve this. If somebody wants to leave the company, obviously can leave the company, but if somebody wants to stay here with us and work with us, he should be able to stay and work with us. So this was crucial to us. And we actually managed this. And we were lucky to have this crisis here in Brazil, I guess, in 2014, 15, 16, because it didn't, the 2020 did not hit us that hard. We were able to keep up the same work in 2020. While the project Tapetes Solution was no longer officially running in 2020, our culture, our organization as a whole already had changed enough to be able to handle the challenges the COVID-19 pandemic forced up on us. Why didn't we not continue the Tapetes Solution? We were believing that an organization is a very complex, very stable building. And so we wanted to have a cultural change within the company. We were able to get this cultural change by unfreezing the company, getting everything in a flow, moving things around. But in order to return to a sustainable and secure path to the future, we had not to refreeze the company because this would be too strong. But after going through our change initiatives, we had to restabilize the company. So we took the Tapetes solution off, and the proof that we did not have to keep it up until today, basically for me, is the crisis last year, where everybody immediately started working on the right things, and nobody even questioned, well, let's suspend work contracts, let's send people away. And the result was quite astonishing to us last year. We were lucky to be in the right industry, obviously, that home decor worldwide had a huge demand increase during the pandemic. With all of us staying more at home, we all needed new pictures on the wall, a new TV, a new carpet. So this obviously helped us a lot last year. But the thing is, we were very well prepared to handle both the months last year where we had sales drops of 90% and the months where we had sales increases of 70%. So it was very gratifying to see that the cultural change we actually did in 2016, 17, 18, and partly 19 made us more mature in a way that we are better at handling and attacking any situation in the market.